Hello everybody, welcome back. Right, I'm assuming I'm live, so welcome back, and hope you survived. I'm sure you did. Either way, right? So it's happened. We got the mega wick, didn't we? So we got the wick exactly as predicted. The thing is, I've never watched that guy, Carl the Moon. I know who he is, but when I was in Amsterdam, my mate he watches other crypto YouTubers, obviously the big ones, right? The big ones. I don't watch. Oh my god, this is a. I hope you don't mind, guys. I've made this a public stream. If you got a problem with that, I can make it unlisted. But yeah, so yeah, I don't watch him, but he says, that bloke, he says it could go this way and it could go that way, and then the next video he puts up, he goes. And obviously he's backed both sides, and then and then he follows up the video and goes, yeah, it's worked out exactly as predicted. Might have been funnier because I was in Amsterdam, maybe, I don't know. Things seem to be funnier out there than they are right here. Anyway, so we got the mega wick. So it's happened, and I'll tell you what though, it's a fine buyback so far. I mean, look, you know how I always say this when we look at charts, and we look at it on the opposite way, don't we? When we look at all these altcoins, we see these wicks from the top, and I go, look, the wicks tell a story. Wicks do tell a story, and normally we're looking at things because we're always looking at altcoins on the channel. We're going, okay, well, I mean, this is going up, but look at those wicks up there. I can't think of an example, but there's many of them, right? And we go, look, the wick from the top to the bottom is large. There's a lot of selling pressure, so obviously we can use the wick from the bottom here and go, well, actually, that's a bloody big bounce, that, isn't it? Close to 17%. Now, I think obviously, given what I said earlier today, I think the range is going to be within this kind of area here. So we're just going to make a little squiggly here. This I think this is going to be the range, right? So yeah, that is basically what I'm expecting to see over the next few weeks or so. However, the wick so far is actually pretty nice, and it wouldn't surprise. I say it wouldn't surprise me that this could end up going into a bloody V-shaped recovery. And I know that video I made earlier. None of the stuff I say is in any way intended to try and gain loads of subscribers. Otherwise, I would start to say ridiculous stuff all the time. But I suppose I didn't really. I should have spoken about it to begin with. But the Ethereum chart versus Bitcoin is very telling as well. So I'm actually really bullish still. In fact, I know it sounds crazy because I go on Twitter a little bit, and there are a lot of people, including the top guys. Not that loads of subs makes you right, but I suppose it does give you power in a way, because people will mimic what you say. So I suppose your trade becomes their trade, which is basically a snowballing effect to, whatever it is that they say might have some kind of effect on the market. It's like a pump group, isn't it, really? Some of these guys are really big. Well, they seem to think that this is bear market territory. I honestly don't think it is. So there is a chance that this could go into a bloody V-shaped recovery over a few weeks. And as we were talking about this on Wednesday, saying that charts are all very well and good, but there is something bigger at play, so we should be on the back foot for something like this, which is kind of what we've got so far. This was the March dip, right? So I was saying on Wednesday, that we could be in for something like this, and I suppose this is kind of what we've had, isn't it, really? But this is a lot more significant, I would say, because the uncertainty overall for what took place in March was a lot greater, and the economic repercussions that were about to take place, or already taking place, or about to take place. Whereas this one is, like I say, it's a mimicked event, really. And this is why I was bringing it up on the channel, saying, look, there's cracks in the traditional markets. It's almost like bloody deja vu, do you know what I mean? And that's why I spoke about it in the first place. I said, look, the chart is one thing, but the chart can't predict. No chart can predict this. I mean, we could say that we're downtrending, but we couldn't predict a giant drop like that. Just like the chart couldn't have predicted a giant drop like this on its own. If all you had was a Bitcoin chart, for instance, and nothing else, you were just locked in a room with a Bitcoin chart, then you wouldn't be able to tell that wick was going to happen. But if you obviously had access to general media, and you see the flapping around that's going on out there, Yeah, then it did feel like deja vu, which is why I thought I'd talk about it and be prepared for it. Now I kind of am doing that sort of thing that Cal from the Moon says, and I suppose that's why I've made a big deal about that little clip that we of when I spoke about it on Wednesday. But if you I suppose to give myself a little bit of credit, right? When we were doing the Patreon live stream, I did make a recording of me talking about that warning, and I uploaded that for everybody to see thereafter. So it's not, it was an important message to put out there, and I suppose now we see, I suppose, the reality of it. It's not that I was expecting it, but it was a word of warning, which I made the video on Wednesday, after the stream, just that little cut of the stream, because it was a word of warning, and now we've got it. But in keeping with what I said back then, I honestly, it is a non-event, really. It is a non-event. This isn't like what happened in March, because it's mimicking what happened in March, but it's not the same. I think that we will probably come out of this sooner rather than later, and given the fact that this wick is so dramatic, it's bigger than the wick that we had back down here. I mean, this was massive uncertainty. It was a much bigger drop with a worse wick, and I know that obviously there was other things at play that caused this. This is probably one of the reasons why we went up so far so fast, more than just a V-shaped recovery. The entire economic situation over in America and basically worldwide, basically just turn the money printers on, then that's something that sort of everybody talks about all the time, why everyone expects the dollar to die, but it's not dying, is it? The dollar is strong right now. Anyway, I digress. So exactly as predicted, but not really. It was just obviously because you watch me all the time, you remember the Patreon or whatever. It's not that I predicted this, but I did have to make a big deal about talking about its possibilities. So yeah, we got it now, but the wick is quite tasty so far. We've come up to what I think is going to be the basic range, 49,000 down to 40,000. I think we're going to play within here. But if we did break out of here and go into a V-shaped recovery, that also wouldn't surprise me either, honestly. And the reason I say that, again, is partially based upon what this wick looks like right now, but it's also based upon the wider picture, which has got nothing to do with this chart. It's to do with, the Megatron virus, which is what we've decided to name it here for YouTube algorithm reasons. The Megatron virus is not the same as what happened in March. Like I say, there's a lot of uncertainty out there still, which has caused this, but it's one of them things. It's just there's nothing anyone could do about it. You know what I mean? And if America goes down the same route that the UK seems to be going down, it's not going to have a huge economic problem. There's a lot of other things in America that are taking place which are causing stocks to sell off. Partially it's this time of year. The Fed decided that they want to try and speed up tapering. All of this was getting priced in, so there's a lot going on at the time. A poor jobs report as well. So there's a lot of reasons why things were going to go down, but it's gone down now, and it's been bought straight back up. Well, not straight back up. It's been bought up to a large extent. So it's interesting as well to see the actual breakdown. The where it's going, because this was our initial buy zone that we had in here. After our initial buy zone said, look, things could, if it wasn't for the Black Swan event, if that's what we're going to call it from now on, if it wasn't for that, then this area is, probably could have held, but yeah, it didn't hold, and we came up to retest the bottom zone of it, and then essentially broke down. It's the 49,000 to the maybe even 50,000 area that will be a pinnacle roll in this, which is 200 exponential. If we can get above there and hold above there, that's great. And a quick look on the weekly. I don't know if it's in any need for me to bring it up, but I might as well do. I might as well bring it up so everyone can see. We'll get rid of total market cap 2. We don't need that. It's the Bitcoin long-term the chart. Which chart is it? It might be Bitstamp actually. The one that goes back longest. I think it is this one actually. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So if we think about this is where I entertain bull and bear markets, generally speaking, and it's the 50 exponential, which is this big green fat line here. So this is Bitcoin all the way back in 2012. 50 exponential holds pretty much the entire time. When it breaks down below it, we are bear market. Hold above it all the way, break down below it, we're bear market. And so we've got 2 bulls and 2 bear markets on this chart so far. Yeah, we did have a bit of a rocky time around the summer. but we only closed one weekly below it. And at this time I said, look, I'm ready for the bear market now. I'm not going to act on it, but I am ready for it, and we basically pulled ourselves back up. So until we start closing weekly candle bodies below the green 50 exponential, and obviously we had a week below it, but if we start closing weekly candle bodies below this green 50 exponential, then I'll be in the same mind. I'll be in the same mind frame. I'll be entertaining the idea of a potential bear market, but for the moment I'm certainly not. I'm more in favour of the range becoming like a new accumulation range, which is down in these zones, or even just a V-shaped recovery, which is what I mean. Yeah, those two are the most likely scenarios. A bear market is not a likely scenario. An accumulation range within here, probably the most likely. Second most likely is a V-shaped recovery. I know that sounds bizarre to hear from me, because I'm usually a pretty conservative trader, far from a moon boy, for instance. And third likely, which is the most unlikely, obviously, is a bear market. So I'm not having a problem with any of this, but yeah, I think we've come to the top side of the range for the moment, and probably probably come back down to these levels. Right then, so that's enough of that then. Let's get into some of these questions then, shall we? And again, I apologise for making this a public stream. It's not supposed to be. It just is what it is. But if you want me to make it private, I completely get it. It's no problem at all. Right, so, well, what a day. Things don't look too bad. As long as the bottom for Bitcoin is in, well, obviously, yep, that's what we all want to see. On the weekly chart, linked to BTC, finally take the 200 EMA. I was waiting for that. Could be a major support? Well, without looking at it, then it should be, because it is what it is. Is the 200 EMA. This is what we use these things for. You're thinking of a weekly, right? So we don't normally get many weekly 200 EMAs, to be honest with you. So yeah, so we got that one, and we're still in an enormous descending triangle formation, and still within the top level of the support. So yeah, I mean, this is just like anything else. It's unchanged, isn't it, really? I mean, this is an enormous triangle formation, which would suggest that if it were to break out of this to the up, it would be an enormous breakout. We do something as crude as this, and it essentially is like a measured move. And again, let's take it with a pinch of salt. Let's just say we broke out, let's say over here, we're looking for a new all-time high on Chainlink. That's crude to do a measured move to that extent, but that's what it suggests. Now we're at the bottom of a formation like this, so obviously for many you'd think about this and go, I'm only interested in trading the breakout. But for others like yourself who are not interested in the formation itself, because again, the formation is not that relevant. It's just showing that there's a downtrend, and there's only two tags at the top of it, really. The support is the thing that's the most important, I suppose. We've got tags down here, and that is we had 2 weeks down this level, 3, 4, 7, 5, and what was this? 3, 5, 4, 4. So yeah, I mean, with or without the 200 exponential, it's arguably a retest of the lowest area of support. So yeah, I mean, knife catcher's delight, isn't it, really? A major moving average like a 200 EMA, or whether it's on a daily, weekly, or even a 4-hourly, they're always relevant. So, but you can't deny that it's still in a downtrend. Obviously, it is in a downtrend. It's a significant one. There's no real upside on this as a weekly chart. It doesn't say, I'm going to go up today, or I'm going to go up tomorrow. But if you think about, what I said about Ethereum, and I suppose I've not mentioned it, but I brought it on the channel. The Bitcoin dominance went down, and it still is going down throughout this process of this enormous dump. I know that you guys have been in the market for a while. Some of you as longer, or maybe even longer than me. But it is not very common. It's very uncommon to see the Bitcoin dominance go down in a dump like what we saw last night or the last 24 hours. That's so rare. To be honest with you, I can't even remember the last time that actually happened. When I loaded up the Bitcoin dominance chart today, and I thought, let's have a look at the damage, shall we? I couldn't believe my eyes, and I still can't, really. I still can't, right? So, but I mean, as we're on the dominance chart, we are coming down to a major level of support. But remember the rules of support and resistance. The more time you tag a support, the more times you tag a resistance, the more likely it is to break. So we have good reactions from here, bouncing on the dominance, bouncing on the dominance. We could probably bounce on the dominance here. But if we did break down, I mean, that's essentially an alt season. And I alluded to that on the video I made today. I mean, ETH breaking out like that, actually being in the green, versus Bitcoin is very telling of what could happen. A V-shaped recovery, an enormous alt rally. We could call it an alt season if you like, a potential alt rally. And if anyone was around in the last March crash, 2020, the March crash then, it took maybe about 2 or 3 weeks, and then after that, things started to pick up pace. Now, obviously, the situation economically, globally, was different, and the money printers got turned on, and everybody was buying everything. The dollar was going down, everything was going up. I don't think we'll see the same kind of vibe, because obviously with the tapering being announced, and they wanted to speed up that tapering as well. I don't know if they're going to do that now, but usually those sort of things are priced in anyway, and that could have caused a lot of that financial traditional markets financial meltdown over the last week as well. All these things being priced in. Now that's being priced into Bitcoin as a result of all of this. So what I'm trying to get across is that in about 2, 3, 4 weeks after the last massive March crash, that's, like I say, similar to this one. I'm calling this one the big brother to the March crash, right? I mean the little brother to the March crash. Altcoins rallied hardcore. I mean, they were on sale. They were literally on sale. I mean, you could have. I didn't pick half of these things up at the time, but I had to wait. I had to wait because there was. I being a conservative trader, I'm not going to buy those dips. I didn't know if the world was literally going to collapse and implode on itself. I had to be careful with what I did. It took me a few weeks to actually buy in, but I was picking up Ethereum at 160. I was picking up. I think I bought some more Matic at about 1 cent. I was picking up all kinds. I bought Bitcoin. I bought my Bitcoin back at 5,000. It was a shopping spree basically. Now that was more pronounced than this dip, and there's obviously we don't know what's going to happen in traditional markets next week. We really don't know, and so that uncertainty on its own should be, that should be recognised, right? But if this is it. Then yeah, I mean, expect that. So if you're holding bags, for instance, I suppose this is the best way to look at it. If you're holding bags of stuff and you're unwilling to sell, the major hopium is that this does look like a recycled event that took place in 2020. Not quite as dramatic, but could have the same repercussions. And so that reaction from Ethereum, even though it's only on 1 day, we don't know where it's going to go. We want to see if it can hold up of this level. That's a very big deal. That's a very telling sign, and if we can stay above here, maybe even retest it as support and then launch from here, that's an Ethereum breakout versus Bitcoin. I don't really, like I say, I know it's only a Bitcoin pair, but it's important to recognize that Ethereum is super strong, and Ethereum props up the altcoin market just by default, and so yeah, in that respect, I have to be relatively bullish on the market and altcoins, especially, even though we approach the Bitcoin dominance super mega support where we usually get decent reaction from there. If we break down from there, it's party time. Anyway, again, you want to know about Chainlink? Yeah, that looks like a super support. It's worth giving it a shot. There's no reason to not, because that's what trading's about. You buy in times like this, don't you? That is trading. That is it. You buy in the red. You buy at supports, and that's a major support based on a weekly. You'd like to see it turn around from there. It's not a bullish chart, but given everything that I've explained, that's my take on the market, which basically equals into, when you put it all together, it kind of does favour a bullish outcome in the not too distant future, and it does seem to favour altcoins like it did in March. Well, not exactly March, but March, April, May, and basically throughout basically. So yeah. Right, let's have a look at Matic then. So I noticed Matic continues to pump. So let's have a look. It's it's a good market. It's a bloody good market, I can tell you that. All right, so yeah, this is also a very similar situation to the Ethereum setup really. So we've got our major area of resistance, top. We broke out of there a couple of days ago, rallied all the way up, big dump down, and then essentially just continued to rally from it. Looks pretty good to me. No reason to doubt its power here. And again, if we think about the chart that we're looking at, no def cross, above all major moving averages, and not particularly extra high or anything like that on the daily. Let's just check the weekly just for fun. Turning up on the weekly. Look, I mean, this is an absolute banger of a chart now, going into a big breakout. If we close the week over here, which we might. We don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, you know, it could, I do believe that we're at the top of this, what may be the accumulation zone for Bitcoin right now, 49,000 basically, give or take. And then yeah, I mean that could come back down again all the way down to 40,000. Obviously, that's going to be felt across the board. But excuse me. But if we can close a week around here, everything looks good for this to be a constructive uptrend. You know, it's early days, but it is pretty nice to see, in keeping with the overall idea that altcoins is probably the better place to be if you do decide to buy some of these dips. I've bought some dips. I've bought some dips today. I didn't think I would, but on after that video that I made today, I had a little closer look, and I thought, look, you know, what you got to lose? You know, it's just your life savings. Not really, right? So yeah, I'm in favour of that. It is good. It is good. Yeah. So, I don't know as I'll bring it back to the channel. I mean, it's a bit old school now. I mean, like I say, I was the Matic Moon Boy back in the olden days, and look, I mean, looks like maybe I should rehash some of those videos where I was calling for it to go to $1 and $2 and stuff. You know, people are going, "You're an idiot, man. It'll never do that." At the end of the day, a lot of that was hopium, but I mean, it has ended up to be true. I don't really think you can price in, you know, that far ahead what it will be. I think it's basically just luck, really, and a mixture of luck and hopium that I've managed to that Matic actually has done reached those targets. But I mean, it has. So maybe I should draw upon those old videos and try and steal some of Carl the Moon Boy's followings. If I keep predicting these things, you know, these are big things, I suppose, aren't they? But I don't think I'll do it. I have made a Twitter post boasting, just reminding people that I did sort of think that there was likely to be some kind of crash. So you know, I'm not very popular on social media. Not popular at all. In fact, I pretty much feel like I'm speaking to a brick wall most of the time. So I wouldn't mind you going on Twitter and just like, you know, just giving it a little like and giving it a little retweet, you know. But you don't have to, no pressure. Right, so could we have a look at VRA, EOS and XRP? Yeah, let's have a look at these. So I think EOS, I think, is we will look at it, but I think what we'll be able to take away from it is that it's just basically wrecked, really. I know for a fact there's not going to be anything on that chart apart from a low value for it, but we can look at it for a laugh. And again, you know, if you want to buy the dips. You choose what you want to buy the dips for. They are releasing an exchange, and it's not it's not going to be a Mickey Mouse exchange. I didn't like the look of it myself when I got access to it, but in all fairness, I did only spend about 15 minutes on it, and you know, at my age, you know, mid-30s, you kind of get a bit resistant to change, you know. So I took one look and I don't like it. It's different. It looks different. I'm not going to use it, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be good. I mean, it probably is. Right, so the VRA broken down below this major level of support here, but still above the 200 exponential, which is something to hold on to. But other than that, we've got we could easily come down lower than this on the RSI, but it's not looking particularly good. But again, if you're into buying your dips, then you buy them accordingly. So where did this wick come down to? Was it a relevant area, or was it just a load of nonsense? Well, it's not really neat or tidy, is it? But no, I suppose a wick isn't. So I'd like to see where today closes across the board, and the weekly closes too. Every day above a 200 exponential is good, but the 4 hourly is obviously going to look like crap after today. So yeah, I mean, it's not looking particularly good at all on the 4 hourly. So I would make the case that we could go into a period of an accumulation at a lower level, just similar to that of Bitcoin. Really, we've spoken about the Bitcoin accumulation zone. That I think the most likely outcome is we do accumulate between 40 and 49 for a little bit, and so everything else is likely to accumulate for a little bit longer. VRA is a Moonboy token, though, isn't it? Everybody wants it. Everybody was tweeting about it. It was everybody's favourite thing. Everyone's saying this, that, and the other. I used to make videos on it and say how bullish it is, but you know, called it shitcoins, and people would jump down my throat calling me an idiot and this, that, and the other. I said, look, I'm talking bullish about it. I said, let's buy this. Blah, 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 blah. And they still had a go at me. So essentially, anything with a large community like that, it feels a little bit like a Matic in a way better chart than a Matic, but yeah, I mean, it is a good chart still. Let's see where this candle body closes, but let's beat around the bush. It was in a downtrend anyway, and it got kicked down the stairs. The whole market was in a downtrend, so I can't really say how good this looks. I think overall we do need to see at least another week's worth of price action, if not 2 or 3 weeks worth of price action, to see if we are going to go into an accumulation within this range for Bitcoin, or we go into a V-shaped recovery, which, like I say, are the two most likely outcomes. And the third, obviously, is potential bear market. Right now, we're right in the middle. We don't know what's going on. Like I say, overall, my favoured outcome is this, and that could mean alts could rally during this period, because a stagnant sideways Bitcoin with a rallying Ethereum and other altcoins will draw attention to where the money's at. But for the moment, Bitcoin obviously always dictates the market, tells the market where it wants to go. Everything could have a really good setup, and Bitcoin will void that. And I think VRA particularly, at this very moment in time, as of today, it's difficult to really say where it's going to go. But it's a Moonboy token, so if we do go into a V-shaped recovery, this will go absolutely bonkers from it. I mean, where were we in March 2020? Were we even around then? Yeah, we were. Let's measure this. It's for fun. Wrecked City, 86% down, and then shortly after that, and this is before it became everybody's best friend. I mean, it is powerful. Let's face it. I mean, I can't even get down there. I have to put it on the old log scale, which I don't like doing. But I mean, this isn't what we should be expecting. So don't look at this and go, "Whoa, what the hell? Buy." But from the March dump, the absolute low to the to the peak, the first peak that it did, it was a 22,000% move over the space of just over a year, basically. So, this is, like I say, one of the outcomes which could come out of this. And I know that sounds like Moonboy talk, and it's one of the reasons I'm not going to be, saying all this kind of stuff on my YouTube channel, because I don't want to sound like a moon boy. But I mean, if you watch the content, I suppose this is the route that I'm going to go down. Maybe I should make some clickbait titles. There's no way that people are going to watch me instead of Cal the Moon unless I start talking like some bullish idiot. But it is based upon the way that this reacted in the past. And let's face it, just take a step back from this chart for a second. Let's face it, this dump, was a traditional market thing based on an economic, the implications of the economy based on tapering and the Megatron virus. What's that got to do with crypto at all? Nothing. Does crypto, does it fall victim to viruses? No, it doesn't. Is it impacted by viruses at all? No, it's not. Not at all. It's not an airline. It's not Airbnb. It's not a hotel. It's not an entertainment industry. It's none of these things, is it? It just is what it is. So realistically, it's just people are drawing upon their gains. They're selling off, and they should wake up in a few weeks and go, what was I thinking? I mean, it was a stupid thing to not buy that dip, because obviously it's unaffected by the Megatron virus which is coming out, just as it was unaffected back in March. So again, let's take into perspective. We got this dump. This dump was for those reasons. All the reasons stated above wasn't based on the chart. The chart wasn't good, but the dump was based upon all those reasons. It was a side effect, wasn't it, to what traditional markets is doing. So there's no reason to suggest that it can't pull itself back up again. And every day that the Bitcoin is above that 50 exponential weekly moving average, history shows that bear markets don't begin until we start closing candle bodies below there. So just quickly reference that again, all the way up, and then bear market go down below the green, all the way up, bear market below the green, all the way up. There's your March crash, so that's worth recognizing. Down below the green, all the way up again. This was a crash, all the way up again. Come down. This is our baby brother crash so far. We're still above it. It's no massive deal to me. Honestly, all this talk of bear markets at this stage is, I don't know what people are talking about. I honestly, it's like I'm trying to think of a good analogy for it. Really, it's just people just thinking about like what's in front of their face. Do you know what I mean? Just reacting to what is literally in front of their face. And they must only see the price and not see anything else. And they look at the price one day and go, bear market. And they'll see the price the next day, it's up. bull market, no real like interest or understanding of what bull or bear markets even mean. They just, that's how it feels. Even these top traders, Right, so I'm not dissing the top traders. I mean, they're good. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I mean, when in doubt, zoom out. And there was implications to being below that green 50 exponential on the weekly. We're above it, even after what's happened. It still points to the up. Everything still points to the up, even though we could go sideways for a prolonged period of time. It still points to the up. The word bear market shouldn't really come into this. It really shouldn't. It honestly shouldn't at all. Right. EOS and XRP. So I'm beating around the bush here. I'll never get through all these questions. Let's have a look at the devastation that was caused over here on EOS. So this could be, to be honest with you, this could be the best buy anyone ever made in their entire life. Or it could just be the most obvious bad trade anyone ever made in their entire life. So we had a few things on here, haven't we, over the last... well, I suppose since this breakdown, every time we look at EOS, we try to pick out good things about it, and it's not like the setup that we had over here, which is a good one. Long consolidation, over accumulation begins. We had a conversion baseline cross on the weekly, suggesting long-term uptrend. All of that worked out really well. Since then, when people want me to look at EOS, it's almost because I talked very bullish about EOS in the past, saying buy it around here and buy it on this dump. And they were for reasons stated on the chart, but there's nothing really ever stated on the chart. It's only a matter of trying to buy supports. We had this rounded bottom, didn't we, which has held pretty much every time we tagged it over the last couple of years, or 2.5 years. And now we're below that. So, I mean, there really isn't anything on it, really. There's nothing. There's nothing to talk about. So I suppose, on a chart perspective here, just thinking about the chart itself, I mean, it's wrecked city, isn't it? It's wrecked city, and maybe we should just accept that it will be wrecked city until we get a signal on it, because it did react really well to signals, and it did react really well to a clear accumulation. So there was two reasons to buy it around here and here, and there's no reason to buy it here. And I suppose if you're into TA, then you should really base any entry on TA, whether that's lines that you've drawn or indicators, or and that's basically what we should do. And so when you look at something like this, there's nothing. There is nothing. There's absolutely nothing. But the reason I said it could be the best buy you ever made in your life is because there is an exchange coming out that might in some way lift the price of EOS. I mean, the bullish exchange, I don't know what facility EOS will play within that, but it might lift the price. There is a theory, and again, this is me going into conspiracies, which shouldn't really be in any way entertained on for any kind of but there is a theory that the Binance exchange, it holds EOS price down on purpose. It doesn't want it to succeed or whatever, and that makes sense. Especially now more than ever. They're literally about to launch the bullish exchange, which is going to be in direct competition with Binance. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would hold the price down. So maybe that might not be a possibility anymore, or it will be less effective if that is the case. If it's not the case, if it's just one of those Reddit things that gets knocked about, then essentially let's just look at the chart, and the chart says I'm wrecked, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm wrecked until proven otherwise, and it's going to take a lot to create something like this, because again, this is all based on TA, and this is the opposite of that. This is the opposite of that. Gone down to a low which hasn't been seen for a long time. But if you think about the wick, let's just see where that wick came down to. Okay, so I mean, the wick in itself has given us a new area of support, which generally over the last 3 years kind of suggests a rough bottom. So we should get rid of this rounded bottom now. It's done, and now this is what our chart looks like. So all right, maybe that was the bottom, and the bottoms get bought. It's not like it made a new low or anything like that, is it? It's really not a very good looking chart. So again, just to repeat, this could be the best buy you ever made in your entire life, as EOS is about to go into a new phase driven by its own people, with their own exchange. But based on the chart alone, we've got a brand new low support here, historical low that goes back several years. That's probably why it bounced there. But is there anything bullish about this? Nah, there's nothing bullish about it, unfortunately. But don't get me wrong, I still hold a lot of it. I don't know how much, but probably too much. I've got a lot, so a couple of thousand EOS tokens of my own. So that's, yeah, I'm in it with you. Do you know what I mean? I'm in it with you. But rather than trying to spread hopium about it, we just respect the chart, and the chart says I'm wrecked, so let's just accept the fact that it's wrecked. Right, XRP. The wick again tells a story. Let's measure the wick so far. Now that is a bounce, isn't it? Now that is a bounce. In fact, that's almost unrealistic, isn't it? To see something do that. That's unbelievable, actually, to look at that. A 41% bounce so far. Absolute epicness. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? I'll tell you what it tells me. It says that the buyers outweigh the sellers on this candle body so far. Obviously it could come down, we've not got a closure, but you've heard of shooting stars, haven't you? So this is the opposite of that. So this is telling us that the buyers are coming in thick and fast to buy XRP, and at the moment the wick is telling the story that the people want it back, that it was a mistake to sell, and you're an idiot to have sold it all the way to this level, and this is an absolute bargain, and it's just being lifted all the way up. The wick outweighs the candle body, the buyers outweigh the sellers so far. Like I say, it's another clue into the idea, the prospect of not just a V-shaped recovery, but an alt rally of significance. So, but again, you know, we're below the major level of support, which is here so far, which is 87 cents. So lift off, bounce, and so far we're below it. So I do feel as though we will go back down again, yeah, based upon the fact that at this current moment in time, the candle body hasn't closed above that level. And so if we think about that, we'll have to look at previous areas of support and resistance, and I think this is the most obvious place. Again, we're thinking of areas of accumulation, aren't we? So we've got levels here, bouncy, breakdown, and rejections over here, and then break out from there. So this could be the new range to play within, or again, V-shape recovery. So we're talking about an area of 76 and 86. So actually not a very tight range at all, really. I mean, not a very small, large range. That's a very small range. So one way or another, we'll see where we go. Coming out of this zone favours, you know, a significant move back up, at least to the 200 and the 1 cent zone. A breakdown from here would imply much lower lows, possibly back down to these wicks, which correspond to these lows down here. So again, you know, we've got to think about all possibilities, which is that's the right thing to do. All possibilities need to be thought about. And on a day like today, where we wake up and we see this annihilation of charts, it's unreasonable to pick a specific side, because we don't have a range at the moment. The range is yet to be established. The range will take a few weeks, in my opinion, to be established, and at that point we can see if we're gaining momentum down or we're picking back up again. We don't know yet, and so let's not fool ourselves into having a specific bias. But the clues to me are, you know, the Ethereum rally, the 40% bounce on XRP. It's looking alright, to be honest with you, but again, you know, let's face it, lower lows, lower highs, still in downtrend, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, to be honest with you. I'm all for it. I'm not a mega bear. So let's carry on. So do you want me to play the Bitcoin blues? Of course. Right, where are we? Let's have there's a lot of questions on it, so that's because I've opened it to the public. So let's just get through it. I'll do this till 10, so we've still got a bit of time. I'll try and stop rambling. I'll look at all right, you're writing the lyrics here. Can we please look at yeah? Let's have a look. It'll be interesting to see what happened to this one. But again, these are the tokens, I suppose, that end up, you know, doing the epic rallies, because it's the meme coins, isn't it? So into the major buy zone, and look, I mean, let's measure this bounce. I mean, it's hard to say really on something that's so dramatic. 28%, so nothing in comparison to our friend XRP, which people like to write off. But yeah, I mean, it's a fair old bounce in the buy zone there, but still below this major area of support, which is where we want to reclaim. So that is, we'll just call it 39. So yeah, if we can close above there, then essentially it's a constructive potential bottom formed, isn't it? So the wick tells the story. The buyers are back in. The closure is going to be, quite telling, and the weeks that follow will also be quite telling as well. We've all, everything's been downtrending for a while. This one especially, because this one was a meme coin rally. So far 67%. That's not too bad, actually. It's not too bad for something like this. So yeah, we entered into the buy. In fact, I had bids down here from ages ago, so maybe they've probably got filled now, unless I cancelled them. I can't remember now, but yeah, I mean, I had bids down in this area, so maybe they got filled. So I'm on your team now. So yeah, we're looking to see the candle body closures. If we can close at these areas, then yeah, we will wait and see. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be driven by Bitcoin's health, but if Bitcoin decides that it wants to push above and stay above 49.50, then yeah, the alt rallies can continue from any minute really. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody goes in and really buys a load of this. I might have probably bought this dip by accident because I had a buy order down there from this initial breakout. I was expecting it to get retested at some point around here, but so I might have bought it. I can't say, but consciously I'd only bought a few dips today. Realistically, what I'll be looking to see now is over the next few weeks, if we start to uptrend or V-shape or whatever, then I will buy more. I'll buy into the strength. I think buying the dips is okay for those who have that kind of cash or believe in the market or know something I don't, or or just like I say, have big balls. But I'm not suggesting any of you go out and buy these dips. I mean, the dips appear to have been bought right now, and what I expect of Bitcoin is that this is the resistance for the moment as well. So that would suggest that we do come down actually from this level. But so don't misinterpret me. I'm not saying we're going to have an alt season or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But what I am saying is that it wouldn't surprise me if actually this is what sparks a alt rally, and some of the clues are out there that could be a possibility. So yeah, I'm okay with the way that this chart looks currently, and if we can close above here, that would be very, very nice, because the wick doesn't represent the price action. The price action for me is always about candle bodies. Wicks are just for a laugh. They're either unsustainable price or unrealistic sells. So couldn't take the price. People wanted to buy it back. It's all about the candle bodies, and if we just forget the wicks, if we just get rid of the wicks altogether and just look at the candle bodies, it's almost as if it didn't break down anything more than what would be expected on what we're seeing at the moment, which is we came out of this consolidation, and this area here is technically an accumulation already. So forget about the wicks for the moment. I know what I'm saying is that the wicks tell a story, and they do. We just focus on the candle bodies. This doesn't look. It's almost like nothing specific actually happened last night for this chart. This chart's still coming out of a massive consolidation into what could be an accumulation, and this would be the bottom of that. Again, I'm not suggesting you go off and buy this stuff, because obviously that one carries probably more risk than most. But TCT, let's have a look at that. Right, I'm also not suggesting everybody bloody uses leverage or whatever. TCT, was it to Bitcoin or to Tether? Whoops. To Bitcoin, obviously, because I don't read what you asked me to do. Right, right. So wick central, isn't it? Actually trades quite high. We should be, obviously the wicks in this instance are very high to the low, so it's saying that I can't sustain that kind of price. So from yesterday's top to today's bottom, there's a 45% drop versus its Bitcoin pair, so that's not particularly good. What's the money flow index over here? 92. So you're in the 90s, and the mid, the low 90s is not really a place to be buying anything anyway, because it can't really go much higher than that. The weekly's turning up a little bit though, so below this massive area of resistance, this whole cloud, the Bollinger Bands are pinching, and I think this is part of the reason why we're unable to sustain the price action. So we haven't managed to close price outside of this weekly Bollinger Band. So if we can't do that, then the Bollinger Bands will stay tight like this, and it'll be hard for it to gain momentum. we're looking at it here on a weekly, and even, you know, from now until, when does this subside a little bit, February next year, you know, it's still a massive area of resistance that's hardcore. We look like we're going to get a positive cross on the Itchy Cloud, which isn't a signal in itself, but it's at least a change of behaviour to a small extent. And we're turning up on the MACD as well on the weekly, which again is a slight change of behaviour. It's not particularly bullish. I wouldn't say it's massively bearish at this particular level. It does respect Bollinger Band bottoms and tops. Obviously, can't sustain price outside the top. Is unwilling to break down below the bottom. So I'm not, like I say, I'm very impartial to it. I don't really have a particular opinion on it, to be honest with you. And I would like to see it start to close candle bodies outside of Bollinger Bands and not have these ridiculous wicks. And you might think, well, if I had bought it when you were beating around the bush, I'd make more money. But for me, it's about risk to reward, and at the moment, it's neither here nor there. I mean, candle right now is above all major moving averages, so that is good. But it's particularly high on the money flow index on the daily, which is partially, I think, why it is unable to sustain price outside of these. We get these huge wicks. So if you wanted to be, you know, someone with big balls, bigger than mine, which aren't particularly big, to be honest with you, you would look at moving averages of significance dailies, and we've got a lot of strength around, well, I wouldn't call it strength, but support around the 200 exponential, which is just short of where we came down to. So we're talking between, we'll call it between 60 and, we'll call it between 60 and what's the 10 exponential, 65. If you wanted to front run it, 65, 70 sats on this one, and you could probably just put yourself a sell order in, you know, not get too outrageous if you wanted to be just doing a quick scalpy trade, or if you wanted to buy it and hold on for, you know, dear life, and then hold it, but don't expect enormous massive things realistically based on this chart until potentially February or beyond. But to be honest, let's just go back to that weekly, and we can put our moon boy hats on, right? So we'd have to break outside of the cloud and be outside of the cloud for a period of 26 periods. That's 26 weeks after the cloud dissipates to allow the Chiku span to get out of there. Because unless we break all the way out here, the Chiku span's not going to get out of there. This might sound Greek to everybody, but it's for those who know, it's you need this Chiku span here as well as the price to be above the cloud after this cross, and a portion to be green for this to really do some kind of significant rally based upon the Ichi Cloud signal anyway. So, but if we were to put our bullish hats on, let's just say we broke out of here and we carried on. We've got a very significant area top over here, very neat top actually. Candles, candles, candles. Forget the wicks, just the candles. We should be able to revisit that at some point, which would be a 100% move. So again, the risk to reward is, well, might be deceptive. What would be the breakdown to our previous lows? 71%. So it doesn't really match up, to be honest, the risk to reward for me on this one at this current level with this kind of chart setup. There's nothing particularly bullish about it. You look to gain as much as you look to lose, so it's up to you really. Alright, ICP pumped to 500. Well, it's a nice statement, ICP crypto, and I get where you're coming from, but I think my targets are a little bit lower than that. Could you have a look at Bepro? Of course. So Bepro was having a bit of a day, wasn't it, before Bitcoin pulled the rug on it. But let's see where we are right now. Hopefully we're above a cent, but if we're not, we'll see what's going on, what the damage is. I think when I made the video, I was saying, look, expect massive pumps and massive dumps on this one without what Bitcoin wanted to do. So we got the big pump, and we obviously got a big dump, and now unfortunately we're below the 1 cent. We're also below the 200 and the 50, and we do have an incoming death cross on this one now. So yeah, a little bit late to the bull market there, I'm afraid, Bepro. However, you know, what's the wick say? The wick from the bottom to the top is 24. What's the wick from the top to the bottom? That's not exactly fair. It's 30. This is like you combine these two together, you've got your spinning top, you know, candle body. I know that there's two candles in one, but let's just merge them together. It's saying basically what that's saying when you're thinking about the candles. It's basically saying, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. I mean, let's face it, it's a way up. Incoming death cross hasn't happened, but it could over the next few days into next week. That's not good. But, you know, it was going up for whatever reason, but it has come back down. So I would say let's just base it on that candle formation. Not, you know, click these together like Lego and accept that it doesn't know which way it wants to go. We're at the mercy of Bitcoin. It's potentially at resistance, and so if we start closing candle bodies below this 200 exponential, which is just short of a cent, so it's all about that 1 cent zone, really, just below 1 cent zone. If we start closing candle bodies below there, then maybe expect these lows to get hit again. We seem to form a bit of a base around here, and this is where the wick came down to as well. As you can see, all these candle bodies more or less closing above there. If we could just draw this back, does this have any historical relevance? Not particularly, from what I can see, actually. Not particularly, no. I mean, a little bit over here, but it's not massive, really. We'll keep it in there just for the most recent price action and this wick. So, you know, maybe we come back down to those levels again, and that could be a knife catcher's delight. But for the moment, let's respect the fact that it doesn't know what it wants to do, other than trend with the market, and we'll just leave it at that, to be honest with you. I know that's frustrating to hear, but that's the truth of it, really. Right, where are we? Look at Bepro, done that. But let's just a bit of hopium for you. Just a little bit of hopium. Don't take this to the bank. If we go into this, what I suspect could be an alt rally similar to what happened, you know, in the weeks and the months that took place after the last event, similar to this one in March, right? Then something like Bepro is actually a really good candidate for something that will run like pretty hard. So it is a good candidate for that. It's low cap, it's got a reasonable community, it already started running prior to the dump. Arguably it didn't break down below its most recent support, which was, you know, only a week ago, so it is a good candidate for a major pump, and I have a fair bit of it, and I'm prepared to allow it to do its thing if that's what it chooses to do. If it doesn't, no big deal. We all have good and bad trades, and when you're playing around with something like Bepro, there's a reason I call it a shitcoin. It's not because I don't know anything about what it even does. You know, I don't need to know. I call it a shitcoin because the risk is high, as well as the reward is potentially high. So that's why I call it a shitcoin. So I think that I'm allowed to call it a shitcoin if it dumps 90% or whatever it did in the last pullback. Yeah, I think it needs to prove that it's not a shitcoin, to me, like VRA did. VRA was a shitcoin basically until it proved that it was not a shitcoin, and so I can't call that a shitcoin anymore. It's proved me wrong, so now I'll give it credit for what it's worth. Bepro's still got to prove itself to me, and shed that label of shitcoin. But I'm on it. I'm with it. I'm hoping for the best, but I'll still call it a shitcoin. UMA. Let's have a look at that. Right, let's have a peep. Come on. I've got 24 gigs of RAM. I shouldn't have to wait this long. I never heard of this thing. Right, so let's have a look. So this isn't particularly nice to see. The wick there, as much as it is a 17% bounce, the wick to candle body ratio is 50-50. So this one is one of those coins, one of those charts, I suppose, that is absolutely mercy of the market. We're below all major moving averages. We don't have a good wick to candle body ratio there, so just on first glances it doesn't look very good. Below the 0 point, money flow index obviously trashed, and this isn't a good way to spot any kind of bottom for anything, to be honest with you, although really oversold zones can sometimes have relevance. It's not like nothing should be looked at as going, that's oversold, it can't go anywhere. Of course it can. It can go down a lot lower. This could go to 0 and then it will just stop trading. No one will want it, and it'll go on something like Probit and stay there forever with a 24-hour trading volume of 50p, because those things, that can happen, right? I'm not saying that that'll happen to this, but I'm just saying judging things by the fact that they're oversold doesn't necessarily mean anything. What we really need to see is divergence, and that's why I'm suggesting to people that although I'm more than hopeful about how this is going to resolve, a week, 2 or 3's worth of price action is going to be more useful, and we should sit back and wait for the charts to mature a little bit. Can they establish a range? Do they appear to be accumulating? Are they V-shaped recovering? You know, we can't tell that right now. This is so early days that we've gone. All these coins have gone into, almost all of them have gone into a new range and should be treated as day one of a new range. And when day one of a new range isn't a range at all, it's the beginning of something. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like a calendar, isn't it? I mean, I don't really know what I'm getting at by that, but yeah, it's just day one of a brand new range. So we don't know what the range will be because it's just entered into a new range for one single day. We don't know what it is. We can speculate, and I think I've nailed it with Bitcoin, but that's yet to be, that's yet to be seen, isn't it? So for this one, I'm not particularly fond of the way that this looks at all. I've got nothing to say about it, unfortunately. So I'll leave it there, to be honest with you. I know that's frustrating, but I can't spin it in a bullish or a bearish light. It would be unfair for me to do that and for you to take something out of it when I don't have an opinion on it, basically what I'm looking at. Keep. Okay, so this one's not as bad, to be honest with you. This is, and the reason I said that is that wick to candle body ratios are decent, so the buybacks are okay. If we think about this in terms of, and again, we've already got a moving average support level, which is the 50 exponential there, but we can also draw this in, so it actually looks okay. So without the wick and looking at the candle bodies, let's just imagine that wick's not there. Seems okay, doesn't it? Let's just pretend there's no wick, and we just look at this and go, all right, big move up, okay, another big move up, down to support, move up, down to support. It would suggest that everything's okay, forgetting about what's actually happened, overnight. Doesn't look too bad. 4 hours is going to be pretty wrecked, I imagine, as far as the chart's concerned, because of the wick, so we can't really take it too seriously. But as of this very moment in time, below the 200 exponential, you'd really want to see this bit get reclaimed over the next couple of days, because being below it will cause a death cross, which might be interpreted as a bearish continuation, which would break that trend line. Just because we're on a trend line doesn't mean it'll hold. A good example of this is Bitcoin. We had one of these. We were talking about this. Said that although I kind of warned about a potential drop based upon all the reasons that I stated, I said that if we think about the chart itself, we've got a support, we've got supports, and this might hold as a support. It didn't, so supports break, obviously. Of course they break, as do resistances. So let's not go into a false sense of security looking at this going, out of all the ones we've seen so far, this one looks pretty good. It's at support now. Let's buy it. Whoa! And then just, and then it goes down just like Bitcoin goes down. All of that is very realistic possibility because we don't have the range, and I think that we're at the top of the range right now for Bitcoin, which would mean that it would carry the market down until it balances out in some way or another. But let's give it the benefit of the doubt. On the chart alone right now, it actually looks quite good, and if we forget about the wicks, it also is in keeping with the way that it was going anyway. An uptrend of support is a good place to be. This ever so slightly was bearish divergence though, so candle body high. We can talk about the candle bodies here. If we talk about the wicks, it's not. I'll go for the candle bodies. So we've got high, lower high. So we've got high, higher high. So bearish divergence on the RSI. If you want to talk about wicks, then we don't have that, but I'd go by bodies, and we do have it on there. So let's just face it. There are cracks in the uptrend, but overall, it's okay. I'm not suggesting you go buy anything. I am suggesting that we wait a little while until it decides. Everything decides. Like I say, because charts, again, like I said last Wednesday before all this madness took place, charts can lead you into a false sense of security, and it's okay. It's okay. I probably repeated myself 5 times on that last live stream. It's okay to hold your hands up and go, right, sometimes charts are irrelevant. The bigger picture is this, that, and the other, which could lead to this, that, and the other, and that's what's happened. So let's not look at charts and go, this is the be all and end all. TA tattooed on my forehead, and that's not the case. TA is good, but sometimes TA isn't good because you couldn't. TA didn't tell you that this was going to happen. It's just an educated guess after being in the market, seeing what happened when history repeats. Do you know what I mean? So let's face it. Let's not allude to the fact that this is definitely going to continue to go up because it's in keeping with its current uptrend. Might not be, but it is looking okay. Anyway, I rambled on that one long enough. Let's continue. QKC. Right. To Bitcoin, right? Let's have a peep at that one. Okay, so this is all right as well. Yeah, this is all right based on the support. Let's just make sure that this my RAM has caught up and put the moving averages in the right place. Okay, so it's not so bad. It's not so bad at all. And the reason I say that is that we got an incoming death cross, avoided that, came down into the into the 200 exponential as well. We are turning down, unfortunately, but I imagine everything's going to be looking like this anyway. So we're turning down on the MACD, that would be, so potential retest of these lower levels. We're inside a cloud as well, so for me, the cloud is an important component to trading, and being in a cloud is technically a no trade zone, because it's if you want to make long trades, they should only really be taken outside of the top of the cloud. If you want to take short trades, they should only be taken from from below the cloud, because the other signals that you look for also have to correspond with price being above or below the cloud. So the cloud is by default a no trade zone. So this is what this would be, which is obviously going to be frustrating, because we're going to be in here until more or less the end of the year. But being above the 50 and the 200 is good. But I would expect that to be revisited. The candle body ratio to wick is 50-50 from what I can see here. So yeah, maybe a retest of these lower levels, and we'll see where we go from there. And again, the market will decide for something like this, which, on face value, currently as of today looks okay, but still on a downtrend from this previous top. There's still a downtrend, just making a lower low on the candle body right now. So even though that the posture of the price is still in a reasonably good position versus moving averages, the rest of it suggests that it will probably revisit these lows, and then you can decide whether or not you want to catch the knife on this 200 exponential, which is what, 48 sats, quite a low sat token. It trades quite low as well, 57 bitcoins 24-hour period, which isn't particularly large, which makes it more vulnerable to well, we can already see that here, wicks all over the place. So but yeah, I mean, let's give it a bit of time. And but again, I couldn't trade this one myself because of this giant cloud. But these things, by the end of the year, we'll see where we go. And again, we'll just let's wait for the ranges to be established, and then we can revisit that. It's in a good position versus its moving averages. At least we take the cloud away, it's not so bad. Go to BTC. Right, so this one, created ourselves a spinning top. So again, and again, I suppose because it's a BTC pair, it's still, okay. It's down versus Bitcoin, so you've been better off holding Bitcoin, which is largely going to be the case for most altcoins. However, based on the Bitcoin dominance chart, is generally not the case, because Ethereum is kicking Bitcoin's ass, which is, like I say, a very positive thing to take away from all of this. But this chart has, and probably may even receive, a golden cross over the next few days, provided we can hold above the 200 exponential. We might get this as early as Monday, Tuesday, which isn't a signal in itself, but it's a potential change of behaviour. I know we got one over here, but this was different. We had a giant, massive rally up here and a breakdown. So by the time we got the golden cross, the uptrend. Well, I wouldn't even call it an uptrend, it's a bloody rally, isn't it? It was over and inevitably broke down from it. So this one looks slightly more constructive. And we're in a good position at the moment to cause this. So what I'd like to see is moving averages make those crosses, preferably get above the cloud as well, retest on one of those moving averages, whether it's the 10, the 21, the 200, the 50, any of them really, and get a good reaction from there. And I think we then go into an uptrend. So this one might end up being one of those front runners. I don't even know what it is or what it does, but it could potentially have had its bottom in already. This looks like could be a it is. It's a formation breakout, so it's a triangle breakout. So yeah, we're in an accumulation at the moment, I would say, already. Still in accumulation here, with the potential to cause another uptrend, because this rally here, which was a decent one, let's face it, and it's from the bottom wick to the top wick, was just short of a 9x, really, 8.5x. So it's fair to consolidate from something like that, and I think it's fair to assume that we would go into something like that again. And looking at the way that this chart looks like on the weekly, which is pretty awesome actually, if we can reclaim this cloud, which the cloud will dissipate quite quickly, and if we can get above 92 sats in mid-December, then it has every possibility of mooning pretty hard actually. The downtrend on the long term and the short term will have been over by then, and the cloud will have dissipated to the point of non-existence, and that would give us every opportunity to actually have something very powerful on this chart. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. add that to the favourites list. I do like it, so thank you for that. Right, where are we? Bet. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Right. I assume it was BTC we'll look at. It's always worth doing the Bitcoin pair. So this one's looking pretty sad again. It's pretty awful looking chart. A wick came down to that low level of support and as opposed to support resistance. We are looking at a weekly here, so at least it recognised that there was areas here, 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 and here. So it wasn't. It was a very neat bounce here. That is one of those coins that everybody sees great things of, and when it goes, it goes. Excuse me. I've not got COVID, but I feel like I might have had it. I've not tested positive for it, but I feel like I might have had it because I have this weird sensation to cough when I breathe in too much. I don't feel ill, so don't worry about it. But yeah, good. Anyway, I digress. So look, this is Knife Catcher's Delight, right? So it's a decent reaction so far. This is a weekly. Let's check on the daily and see what it really looks like. Yeah, epic bounce from an epic support. So again, we're looking at versus Bitcoin. So 23% bounce with a tiny little piece of candle body left to basically be back where it was. We're still in a downtrend. We've got a death cross incoming now. So again, it is a Knife Catcher's Delight, and we can assume that might be its low. We had a similar thing back in here in May. Look at that wick, for instance, and actually never came down to that level again. So, and again, this wick, corresponds to almost exactly to previous levels of resistance and support. So I actually quite favour this for one of the front runners of what could be this alt rally that I'm anticipating. That I'm not calling for it. I'm anticipating it. It's different. I'm not. This is why I'm not going on. I'm not going on YouTube and saying buy this dip, it's your last chance to become a millionaire. It's a completely unreasonable thing to say, but based on experience, I actually there's a large portion of me that I actually think that is one of the most realistic outcomes of what took place last night. But even so, it might not be. We could end up just dying off. Traditional markets will decide the fate of Bitcoin. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say because everybody that thinks that it's all detached. No, most of you don't think that, but a lot of people do think that, which is a silly thing to think, to be honest. Because it's proved time after time that they're extremely tied together. So we do need to see and wait for not just the Bitcoin range to be established, but developments in the actual real world, right? So to look at the charts, I still hold on largely to what I said last week, which is that charts to a large extent are almost irrelevant while the world is moving through this situation, these multiple situations that the economy, the American economy, but also the world is dealing with right now. That has to be ironed out and become a bit more clear as to what's going on there. But based upon this chart, specifically VET, let's forget about the world that we live in and just look at this chart itself. It's a fine bounce. We had a decent reaction from our last bounce. We did have a decent reaction overall. We had a double top over here, which is unfortunate. But we've got a long way to go before this breaks turbo bullish. It's about 100 sats away, isn't it, from our current price action before we get to our major level of resistance. So there's about a 50% move. It's only when we break above here that we can go crazy. But again, things are breaking out. We saw Matic, we saw Ethereum. They're breaking out versus Bitcoin. Maybe VET does it. But maybe people saw this wick, and again, the wick is telling from the area that it came down to that it wants to react from here. Break down here, top here, sort of I suppose it's not a bit nondescript area, to be honest with you, and then major breakout area from here prior. So I think that there's no that's not a coincidence that it bounced exactly on that level, is because it corresponds exactly to some major areas of price action in the past. So that could be the low. That could have been it. Remember, this is a Bitcoin pair. So we could see a downtrend in the market and not see that wick get revisited, because this will trend with Bitcoin or whatever. It might emphasize that. We'll come back down again, but we might not get to that level again. Then we could move up again. Could is the operative word when there's so much uncertainty in the wider world. But based upon what I'm seeing right now, that could actually have been the low for the Bitcoin pair. Anyway, I hope you understand and get where I'm coming from there. I'm not suggesting that you harvest your kidneys for VeChain today. that maybe you could do it in 3 weeks or so. Yeah, just just one kidney, you'll be all right. Yeah, if you live a healthy lifestyle, you can do one kidney on the darknet. Right, LRC. We'll just go for Bitcoin pairs, I think, for the minute. Right, so this is a banger. It's an absolute banger. So you can already see that today's candle is gone green. So that might not mean much to you, but it means a lot to me. So it's actually up since the drop from yesterday versus Bitcoin, obviously. So it's not going to be the case versus Tether pairing, I imagine, but versus Bitcoin, that's a fine reaction. So not only have we got a good wick to body ratio, but it's actually green. I think this is the first green candle we've seen actually outside of Ethereum and Matic. So good going. But based on the relationship to moving averages, huge divergence still taking place for the larger term timeframes. The shorter term timeframes coming down. We want to reclaim the center of this Bollinger Band, which is 478 sats. Let's have a look at these bad boys over here. So a massive amount of bearish divergence on the daily here. So again, maybe we do get rejected a little bit above where we are right now, but the wick tells a story. And people want this. The buyers are in on this one, and the chart based on just the divergence on itself is pretty good. Again, remember we're living in at least a couple more weeks of major uncertainty. Right, on the weekly, still really good, really good actually. Lots of supports, even quite far away from where we are right now, and still remain massively bullish. 32% would still be pretty bullish. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. So yeah, I'm actually okay with this, to be honest with you. Again, I'm not suggesting anybody buy anything right now. We've bounced massively across the board. So we've got a conversion baseline cross above the cloud on a 3-day golden cross. Everything's looking good. So, its posture on the 3 days better than the daily and the weekly. So it's looking. I like it, to be honest with you. And again, this is another reason for me to think that things are going to be more than okay. And all those people calling for bear markets will be. I know I looked at the Bitcoin pair, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to say mistaken, because that would be arrogant to say that, and they could obviously be right. No one knows. I always make the analogy that TA and just trading in general is like making bets on football, or any sport, for instance. You could have a 10-to-1 odds and still win. Anything is still possible. No one knows for certain. It would be silly to say anyone does know for certain, but to balance the odds out. There are clues here to suggest that alts could just go into a rally over the next few weeks, to be honest. Right. I think it goes downtown in Chinatown. The Megatron is too coordinated across all Western media outlets. They're up to something. Makes no sense otherwise. Well, Mr. Moon, I mean, let's not get into it, alright? Let's agree to disagree. There's no reason to suggest that a virus of such magnitude can't mutate. That's what they do. I mean, I've read a lot of Richard Dawkins, and it makes perfect sense. Right, hi, how was Amsterdam? Any gems? Yeah, well, I have to say that I went to Amsterdam and I went to that blockchain convention, and all of it, absolutely all of it, was over my head. Plus, some of it was in Dutch, so, I mean, I didn't really take much away from it. And let's face it, I wouldn't have gone to a blockchain convention if it wasn't for it being hosted in Amsterdam. There was a lot of other things to do, and I think, to be honest with you, I'm not going to argue with you, I went off and did them things instead. Nothing seedy, so don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I'm a responsible father of 2 girls, so I didn't do anything like that. But there are other things to do in Amsterdam which are just as good. Right, so VRA, check that. ADA, let's have a look at that. So Bitcoin looking like it's been, well, I say it's not fair to say rejected, but looks like first test of that potential range that I'm speculating on is having a reaction to. Again, we don't know. Weeks need to unfold first. Right, fine bounce here, ADA BTC. Again, wicks tell a story. Maybe the lows are in. That's a big old sell-off there. I've never been a fan of ADA. Maybe it's partially because I sold it at 14 cents in 2019, or maybe it's just because when things go up and they do like 100 or 200x, I kind of write them off because you know, they've done their move as far as I'm concerned. They could obviously always go higher, but they've done their move. So I do often expect larger pullbacks as more and more money goes into it, you know, with diminishing returns. A lot of Bitcoin traded in this one though, so you can see there's a lot of money going into it without a great deal of reward being pulled out of it. Death cross on the 4-hourly here, on the daily actually, for Bitcoin pairing. So this one could end up being, and I don't want to scare anybody because these things can turn around, but I remember, or I don't know how long you've been around, but if you remember Chainlink, you know, when Chainlink was indestructible, you know, which was going on for a long period of time, you know, very, very consistent. Chainlink will reach 10,000. It was all over YouTube. 10,000 per coin. It's the new big. It is the. No, how can this be? Death cross. Oh no, never really recovered from it. Okay, we're gonna have to reassess. And now no one talks about it. So there is a chance that fate could await ADA. To be honest with you, it could. Obviously, you know, that could be the case. This might be the support, but based on this chart, this could be a bubble pop for a token that seems to have gained too much traction, too much attention for, I don't know. But you know, it is green for the moment, so let's give it the benefit of the doubt, you know, based on what we're saying. But this is a significant, you know, downtrend versus Bitcoin since its peak, and we are coming to. I mean, it's broken support after support. I mean, this area here was what we were hoping, what you would have hoped to have been support. Now we're broken down below it. Bounce from here up to rejection from there, back down to it again. So it looks like you got a range for the moment, so we'll have to see which way it's going. But the chart favours further downside, I have to say. There's nothing bullish about this chart right now, apart from the reaction that it's had today. But if we can break above 3127 sats, hold above there, you know, moving averages on the lower term time frames, reclaim there, so, you know, giving extra support to it, then maybe we go back into an uptrend. But for the moment, I'm not a big fan of it, in all fairness, and it does bring back certain memories of what a lot of people would think an indestructible altcoin would be, that's already done, you know, an enormous amount of percent gain, can basically just drop off in the end. And I think I say it every now and then with coins like this. If you've been in a coin that's done 100 or more X, right, and then you see your gains, which are significant at that level. You know, if you put $1,000 into ADA and you've done 100X, you've got $100,000, right? So let's just say you got $100,000 at one point up here, and you're like, oh my god, I am absolutely loving this. And then suddenly, your $100,000 is $50,000. You might think, right, okay, let's pull out. There's be a lot of people in that situation, you know, thinking, right, I tell you what, you know, I've still made 50,000. Let's cut my losses at this point. Let's get out. There's a lot of people who are essentially whales. It becomes a whale event, really. Every other person ends up becoming a whale the further it goes up, and you've seen it if you've been in the market for long enough. Your unrealized gains, the bigger they get, they're exciting. You look at them and go, "Whoa, look at that! That's unbelievable." You wake up the next day, you know, I don't know, you're 100 grand down or something. It's you know, I mean, gains aren't gains until they're realized, obviously. But I mean, some people should and probably do and probably have and may continue to just take their significant gains out because they've made significant gains. This is why I get skeptical of things and don't want to and have no interest in charting things that have already done such enormous gains, because I always think, well, how high can it go? And the risk becomes higher and higher and higher. There are certain coins that probably trump that and continue to trump that idea, like Sol, for instance, you know, and probably a few others. But ADA, I think it's been overinflated for a prolonged period of time, and it could come down. But that's just me thinking. So if we're thinking about the TA anyway, without me rambling about what I think, then it is just a matter of 2,600 sats to 3,200 sats. It'll make its mind up one way or another. If we reclaim this area, then yeah, things could turn up on this one, and it could go back up to its previous highs and beyond. If it doesn't, then it'll go down to its next level, which looks like it could be all the way down, roughly around here, roughly speaking. So about 2,000 sats, nice round number. Obviously, a nice big drop versus Bitcoin is not going to be felt too. It's not too bad, is it? It's not the end of the world, but Not a big fan. Right, what else are we looking at? And BNB. So we never look at that anymore. We never look at it. BNB. Let's have a look. Should we do BNB Bitcoin or should we go for Tether? I think we should look at it versus Tether because it is a decent one. So wick to candle body ratio is looking pretty good. Currently looking to maybe hold on and above the 50 simple and exponential. So that's an okay place to revisit. We've done it on this uptrend a few times. Bang there. Bang there. Well, the wick to the 50 simple, the candle body to the exponential. So yeah, we'll see where we go from here. Still in a consistent uptrend, really. Turning down on MACD and everything else like that. To be honest, I'm okay with it at this level. I'm okay with it. And again, if we can hold, which I don't think we will, but if we can hold exactly this level and go into a V-shaped recovery, which we might do. Remember, that's my second favourite outcome. Then BNB will go. It will go crazy. Again, candles and wicks and formations almost become just hocus pocus. Really, it's not really worth doing. The support is the moving averages. The 50 simple, the 50 exponential is the bottom line for this one, so it is more or less at its major level of support. Breaking down, closing down below here, we would go into a further downtrend of probably significance there. Let's go for a weekly look on this, because BNB is strong, like bloody strong. It's not even fallen victim to all this hatred that comes out about Binance, which I think is completely unfounded. I don't know what people hate about Binance. What's the hate about it? Do you know what I mean? Oh, I don't want to KYC my account because I'm a massive twat. No, hang on a minute. You KYC it and then you can enjoy all the gains that crypto with the highest volume exchange in the land. What's the problem with the KYC? You have to do that in traditional markets. Usually, sometimes you have to do a lot more than that in traditional markets. You have to put in your national insurance number and all this lot. No. It's no big deal. Right, so yeah, weekly is still in a good situation above all major moving averages. Came down to the 21 exponential. That's an okay place. That's like the shadow of the center of the Bollinger Band and we've done that in the past. Banged on it there, and yeah, I'm okay with it, to be honest with you. But again, uncertainty does cloud the market over the next few weeks. Pay attention to the old Megatron virus, but BNB is strong to me. I quite like the look of it. I'm missing things all over the place. Sorry, Coty. Sorry about this. I probably say it once a week. I am dyslexic, and that means that I miss pretty much anything that's written in English. Like, it's like looking at hieroglyphics. I'm not joking. Right, so it's its last line in the sand here, to be honest with you. But again, wick to body ratio is okay for the moment. 200 exponential is where the candle remains. This would have been the buy zone, which was sliced into like a knife through butter and bounced out. So it's looking, I suppose, it's the last line in the sand. Let's face it, it's the last line in the sand on the daily here. Turning down, unfortunately, turning down here. So because my like I said, my preference for the market is that we are already at resistance on Bitcoin. That Bitcoin over the next week, two, maybe even tomorrow, comes back down and edges towards 40,000, maybe at its all-time low. It's at ultimate low, which is a lot. Obviously, a lot of a drop. It's $9,000 from where we're at right now. Then that would bring the market down generally with it, depending on how it does it. If it meanders at this sort of highish level above 40, well, let's just look at Bitcoin. I know this is annoying, but this is what we'll do. So if it hangs around the upper 40s for, let's just say, a few days to a week, and allows for altcoins to move up, gain a bit of ground, move up, above this last line in the sand, and reclaim higher areas. That means that if and when Bitcoin does decide to come down to its lower areas of the 40,000s, then these altcoins, they've reclaimed, they've made up some areas that they can come back down again, and they can come back down to these levels again, because they'll have made some moves up, and they can sustain another 20% drop or wherever it is from wherever they're going. At the end of the day, this is the downtrend still and a major area of support, but because the support right now is at what I think Bitcoin's resistance is, you have to accept that with everything that I've said. So with all the coins that we're looking at, they look like they're at support, but Bitcoin to me looks like it's at resistance, and so that doesn't, in the very immediate term time frames, if Bitcoin pulls back from this level, today, tomorrow, and next week, and alts haven't continued to make up some of their losses, then yeah, these major areas will break down, and it will void, I suppose, for a lot of these coins, because no altcoin is created equal. That's like one of the catchphrases that I tried to coin on the channel, because it's true. But if we think about the altcoin market, as a whole, which is what I've said at the beginning, which makes me think that I'm bullish on altcoins in general, it's based upon Ethereum carrying the market, Bitcoin dominance being low, and blah blah blah. But if we think about this right now, then this is at a support while Bitcoin is at a resistance, which doesn't bode well to what could happen if Bitcoin comes back down further to the mid to low 40s again. But benefit of the doubt at the moment, if we can close a candle body on the here, then it has a chance to have a further reaction tomorrow. But Bitcoin will decide. This is a downtrend, and so what are we looking at? What are we waiting for? We're waiting for, I suppose, some bullish divergence or something like that. We don't have any real telltale signs that this will turn up, other than the wick to body ratio that we've got right now. And like I say, there's a chain, isn't there, right now? So we're looking at alts, but we're also looking at Bitcoin in the corner of our eye. And when we look at Bitcoin, we're looking at traditional markets in the corner of our eye. And we're looking at traditional markets, we're looking at the Dixie in the corner of our eye. And then we're thinking about the Dixie, we're thinking about actual big events in the world in the corner of our eye. So all four corners and a few other extra corners are pretty much all, our eyes. You need to have like an eye like a fly or something like that to have all these corners that you have to look at before you even begin to take an altcoin position seriously. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so much in this chain. It's like a domino effect, isn't it? Right, this is a support, let's go. And then suddenly, Megatron becomes Megalodon, and anything's possible after. Do you know what I mean? And so the house of cards that you've built just falls down, because this chart is only as strong as its weakest link, which is essentially the global economy at the moment, based upon this bloody Megatron. Right. So hopefully that made sense to you. I know sometimes I probably sound like a maniac, but hopefully you understand where I'm coming from, right? Alice, let's have a look at that. It makes perfect sense to me. That's all that matters. Right, we'll go for Alice to the USDT. Right, 50-50 on the wick to body ratio here. Tag on the 200 simple moving average, which previously, was held from the candle bodies here. So this is a big breakdown, really, 60%, and nothing redeeming on the daily. But you're not really going to see anything after something like that. 60% over what looks like less than a couple of weeks. It's a big deal, really. It's a fair old pullback, and essentially it's one of those situations where I suppose the chart is kind of broken, really. Major area of support, resistance here that just couldn't hold. Even before everything really happened, it did a breakout, but it refused to hold, and the resistance is basically kicked in, and now it's down. Now it's down big time. I would write this one off, unfortunately. I know that we're above the 200 exponential and everything like that, but it's a 60% drop with a 60. Yeah, I mean that's all you really need to say. 6% drop. I would entertain the idea of it, picking it up maybe down at these levels, which I think is not unreasonable to imagine if Bitcoin is at resistance now and it pulls back. And we'll see if we can, catch a bounce around $13 or something like that, maybe. And that would still be okay for what could end up going back into the uptrend. It would be a major knife catching event. The chart's not very old, and I know there's a lot of you watching that probably haven't watched my channel before, but I mean, when you look at charts that aren't very old, they're just not mature enough to take seriously. You know what I mean? Because all indicators are based around volume, price, and time. And so you take away the time aspect of a chart, which basically means that you're mainly dealing with price and volume, and you can't take the chart that seriously, because the charts don't respect the moving averages, because they're not mature enough to hold any kind of major significance to it. So the price and the volume are some things to hold on to, which is why something like this, a horizontal trend line of resistance and obviously a support, would be more relevant as opposed to the moving averages in general, because that's, you know, this corresponds to price and not so much about time. Yeah, as far as these moving averages are concerned, I can't really take them too seriously. So if you think about this breaking down and maybe catching a bounce around potentially a horizontal level of support, which looks like this could be the area, and well, there you go. So yeah, it was just a coincidence that the 200 exponential, 200 simple was there. You draw a horizontal line through it where we bounced from, supports all the way over here, supports all the way over here, supports all the way over here. So there you go. You've got price and well, the volume, but it's all about the price. So yeah, there you go. Moving averages, that was just a coincidence, probably, and it's all about this area. And this is your area. This is your area. We may just end up being a giant accumulation range. What's the bottom to the top here? It's massive, but we've seen bigger than that in the past. We had the accumulation range of Bitcoin in from May throughout the summer was about a 70% range. So it's nothing unusual to see an accumulation range of about 80%, but it is quite a large one. So based upon this chart, yeah, well, I suppose if you want to accumulate it, it'll become more evident over the next few weeks when Bitcoin decides what it wants to do in traditional markets and Megatron virus or whatever, you know. But an opportunity to pick it up at these lower levels is probably more significant than the 200 exponential. But if you want a front run, there's no reason why the 200 exponential won't kick in one day. But it's a young chart, so moving average is less of a deal than previous support resistance. You could argue that there's a little slice in the middle of all of this, which is around here, which is at just short of where we are right now, 1464. So you could stagger your orders in there. Again, I'm not suggesting you buy anything, to be honest. I'm just saying it looks like it could be in a massive accumulation zone. Bottom, middle, top, and then you take your pick depending on if you want it or not. Do you know what I mean? Right, Alison CHL. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Right. Interesting to see how this... Whoa! Wrecked City. I thought this one was going to take over the world, I was told. I was told that I was missing out on something special, but I can see I definitely missed out on something. But yeah, I mean, Wrecked City. Candle to body ratio is slightly in favour of the wick, but it's not much to write home about, is it really? It looks pretty devastating. Nothing on this one particularly that's of any interest. I mean, even before yesterday, 45% retrace. So this is one of those ones that could just bounce and rally because it is what it is, and previous price oftentimes does reflect on what happens next. But I mean, it is Wrecked City, definitely. I mean, what happened here? So this is March to I suppose when the market turned around, 84% retrace, and then look, let's face it, you know, those who had the balls for it, you know, picked it up. Let's just say you picked it up when we reclaimed the 200 exponential, could have made a potential 6.5x on that one. But if this is your bag, this is your bag. It's not mine, unfortunately. If I were to trade it, I would wait patiently to see if we can get a retest of this. The fact is, because this is diverging still, right, and we got an okay reaction from a 200 exponential, and this, because we're above it, it will continue to trend up, that it's not unreasonable to imagine that as this 200 exponential kind of moves with this kind of trajectory, and the price action, let's just say, does something like this, and then one day we tag it, that would be your area where you would take your buy, wherever that moving average is, and then maybe we start to uptrend from there and go all the way up to the moon or whatever. But for the moment, I would definitely leave it to be a bit more, you know, obvious about what it's doing. It's basically 50-50 right now on that one. Carl the moon is a tool. Yeah, I think what it is for me, like, because like I say, I was in Amsterdam. You know, we had YouTube in the hotel. You got locked down from 8 o'clock onwards, right? So there wasn't a great deal to do other than just watch YouTube and, you know, do stuff that you do in Amsterdam. But it was funny the way he conducts his channel, and it made me reassess what it is that I'm doing. Maybe I should just do that. Maybe I should just draw a formation and go, I think it might go this way, and actually I think it could go that way as well. And then the next day saying, it did exactly as I expected, and then suddenly just rake in the subs, and just move. Well, I wouldn't move. I can't. I got my family here, but if I was a younger man, move to Dubai, move to Portugal, and just sell out massively. It appears that that's what he does. Right? I mean, I'm sure he does more than that, but it does appear that that's what he does. And then he'll come on the next week and say it does exactly as I expected. I mean, I've like I say, I mean, maybe I've got too much of a conscience to just be such a tool, but it does appear to be a tool, as do probably most of the top YouTubers, to be honest with you, because they just appeal to what people want to hear. I make these videos like telling you what I think is going to happen, but people don't want to hear it, and they dislike me. They have a go at me. You're an idiot. It's not going to come down. It's going to go down. Bitcoin's the future. Oh god, it's gone down. Anyway, I found a gem in Amsterdam. She was good one, yeah. A lot of that wasn't really going on, unfortunately, with all the lockdowns. You'd go down these streets and there'd be like one lonely prostitute per street, and they all look the same. I went to Amsterdam like 15 years ago, and it was like hustle and bustle. It was a great place to be. This time it was kind of sad, really. There'd be one lonely prostitute, and they all had the same face. They all look like, that face that everybody wants now, where they just basically put fillers in and puff their lips up. And I was like, oh my god! Everywhere you go, I was like, hang on a minute, haven't you been? I thought I saw you on the other street, and they all look the same. I was like, anyway, it was pretty a depressing place to be. You'd go into pretty much any bar, and it'd just be me and my mate in there. I was like, god, it was like a ghost town, like really. Anyway. Hi CC, how's XRP looking? So we've looked at XRP and we've looked at EOS. So we'll look at StormX, shall we? Versus Sats. I think we'll do it versus Sats. It's a bit more telling when we do that. I saw it had a little lift the other day because I've been in StormX since it became StormX. Because I actually use the Storm platform, right? Not much recently, but I mean it's worked out pretty well, especially obviously where I bought it. It became like I bought a load of it back ages and ages ago. Actually, probably around this level, to be honest with you. So it was down for so I was down for a bit. But the idea is you buy it similar to the Crow system, really. You buy it, you put it in your wallet in the app. And you become like a bronze, silver, gold, platinum, whatever member, and you get like massive amount of cash back when you buy from certain places. Like I bought Nord and the what's it called, the VPN, right? And I basically got all my money back from, I bought with real money, obviously you buy it with real money, but through the Storm platform, and I pretty much got all my money back in the form of Storm tokens, and now obviously it's like I got paid to buy it. So it is a good system depending on where you bought it. So I actually hold quite a lot of it still, just sitting in there, and obviously quite high up. I've not sold it because it serves a purpose, you know what I mean? But they recently sent me an email saying that they're going to be accepted on Amazon. I mean, that's massive. That's like the crypto dream, isn't it? So you're getting rewarded in crypto for buying on Amazon. Who doesn't buy on Amazon? Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, to be honest, with that news, I would have expected a little bit more of a lift, to be honest with you, but when was that? It must have been this week here. So it wasn't an enormous pump, to be honest with you. It was, what, a 26% move here? I generally would have expected a little bit more from it, but no. But this StormX is like, it's a big deal. It was a bit of a crummy thing before. It was one of those things that you see advertised on, advertised, but you play like little apps, games. I think you can still do that now. So you play like some crappy phone game and you get given Storm tokens or Ethereum or even Bitcoin actually for spending like weeks building a farm or whatever, and then you get a tiny little bit. It's just basically, you might as well go and get a job, to be honest with you. You get paid way more. But for what they went into, they moved into this whole retail sector, and they've basically gone from strength to strength as far as their business model is concerned. I don't see them going anywhere. I think this is a brilliant coin to hold on to. I think it's like a reward token, basically. Arguably the best one out there. So, yeah, it was a bit of a lame pump considering what they said, but based upon the chart that we're looking at now, forgetting about the wicks, the wick to body ratio is ever so slightly in favour of the body, but it's still down versus Bitcoin. It's not a good place to be. But as we enter toward the end of the month, into January, we'll at least have a small green portion of the cloud that might break, which offers the opportunity for further upside. But based upon the chart itself, death crossed over here, struggled to maintain any price above the 200 exponential, so the sellers are still on board. I think that's market driven, in all fairness, and again, I'm not a massive fundamentals person, but I mean, there are serious things going on for StormX, so I think it's only a matter of time before similar moves like these take place, and they get more and more sustained. For the moment though, it is slightly wrecked city. We've got support around more or less just a little bit below that wick. 46 sats. I'm actually okay with the prospect of buying this dip based upon where they're going as a company. Entering into the retail crypto reward system to a large extent. They've already got eBay, they've got Walmart, now they've got Amazon. They don't appear to be going anywhere. I think it's basically the developments don't reflect the price at the moment, and on a fundamental level, it seems like a no-brainer. But again, I'm not a fundamentals person. I'm actually pretty crap at it, so I probably should not really talk about it. But yeah, the support down here, if it were to be tagged again, 45 sats should probably be a decent buy, because this giant consolidation, we did have moments down here, but generally it's been okay. And the break in the cloud currently referencing between about 55, 56 sats. If we can get above that price, or even above this cloud, then we have every reason to expect another one of these at some point soon. At the moment, 50-50. I'd be interested in buying some at 45 sats, and I probably will, actually. I probably will. Right, where are we going? Dent. We looked at ADA, so let's look at Dent. I've got 20 minutes left, haven't we? Dent. But yeah, hell of a day in crypto, isn't it? It's good times. Good times. This is why we love it. We love the dips. This is why I've fallen in love with Wojak, and I'm using him all the time in my thumbnails now, because he's a great character, isn't he? He sums it all up, and there's almost like a joy in collectively being wrecked. Do you know what I mean? Because that's part of the fun, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure a lot of us, if not all of us, are worse off today than we were yesterday, but most of us, if not all of us, should be better off today than we were 4 or 5 months ago. I mean, we should be. We should be better off now. And so, to be honest, being wrecked together collectively, that's what builds a community, and we should enjoy that. And Wojak, he captures that, doesn't he? For me, he's a great character. I absolutely love him. There's nothing more funny than getting wrecked, I'd say, in crypto. It is a funny and should just be all part of the process and enjoying it. I say it all the time. There's not really any asset class out there that I've ever experienced that is as forgiving as, not just crypto in general, because let's face it, some crypto is there's bubbles and scams all over the place, but Bitcoin overall is an extremely forgiving asset. Now, I always say it, since I heard it from Michael Saylor, which I'm not a big fanboy, but buying Bitcoin is, the best time to buy it is always 5 years ago, and that's a great statement to say. Anyone that's ever bought Bitcoin 5 years ago or more doesn't care about what's happened today. Why should they? They're loving it, and that should be something we all hold on to. That's the deal. The best time to buy Bitcoin is always 5 years ago. So when you get these people talking about the store of value and other people, disputing it, I mean, it's only the case if you bought 5 years ago or more. Obviously, you could argue it's the case for people who bought 3 years ago, but 5 years, even better. Right, so let's move on from all that Michael Saylor business, but you see where I'm coming from. So being wrecked is fun, really. You should just laugh it off, really. It's all just a laugh. Right. Dent, right, so the... let's have a look. It's hard to say. Right, so we did have a small RSI breakout, and now we've gone back down back down into the trend. So we had a moment of hope that has been drastically taken away from us. So again, Wojak Central looking at we're broken, but dead. I can't spin it in a bullish light particularly, but there is an area of major significance which we're not too far away now. 0.37 of a cent. That's a support that might be worth taking a small risk on, to be honest with you, but there's nothing pointing to the stars on this one until we get above these major moving averages, which we're not. So I can't spin it in a good light. That's a 22% down, so it's one of the more wrecked of the charts, really. Again, something that looks like this, it never really came round again, did it? So the big move back in in the alt season peak never really came round. In fact, we did only get a high and a lower high, and what might become a lower low. So I would look at this one with a massive caution, and especially for those who like the itchy cloud like me, we are entering and significantly beneath an enormous portion of the cloud. So if this had happened in 2019, for instance, and we'd have had a few years to I suppose consolidate, which was what this is still doing, and the cloud dissipate, and on the weekly, then I would probably be more in favour of it. But there's more against it than there is in favour of it. And if you think about the candle where we are right now, we're below all the major moving averages. And if we carry on like this for a week or two, we will get a short signal on a weekly. So there's a lot of other opportunities out there, but outside of this one. This one could turn round. We're above a major level of support, and again, that's worth holding on to. But everything else would say that there's probably better things out there than this. So I can't say it any other way. I'm afraid it's not a good look for that one. And again, the whole crypto market is, well, it's up for debate, really, isn't it? Right now, we don't know what next week will do, because we don't know what will be said, do you? I sat through Joe Biden's speech, which was a chore, and he seemed to suggest that he's going to do what the UK is doing, which is just let everybody carry on. Do you know what I mean? Might be to do with Christmas, maybe, and maybe he'll everyone will lock everything down after Christmas. I don't know. The economy, I suppose, is an important factor. I need to keep it going. Otherwise everybody gets wrecked, don't they, with or without the virus. So I don't understand ETH. It's pure pants to use. ETH 2.0 could easily fail. The risk just isn't being priced in. People are essentially buying into hopium. Yeah, I can kind of agree. If you think about it like this, right? So if you imagine, this is how I choose to view it. So if you imagine Bitcoin is like a commodity like gold. So I'm not saying it is gold. I know people call it digital gold. So we just look at Bitcoin in a different way. Bitcoin is your equivalent of a commodity like gold, and will trend like that, and is used as a store of value, for want of a better word. But you know what I mean. And Ethereum is almost like an index. It's like a major index of blockchain. All the things that work within Ethereum. So it kind of could be looked at like a major index, like the Nasdaq or the S&P of crypto, right? Because all the it exceeds by far all these other little projects that work within Ethereum. And say the money goes back to Ethereum, so it's like an index. So we can look at it in that respect rather than anything else. And because of that, it's gaining ground. So I know what you're saying. There's why is it continuing to move? It's obviously the entire crypto is highly speculative, and will be for a long time, maybe indefinitely, as all these little projects either gain traction or make deals with Amazon, for instance, or whatever. They all and some will fail and some will succeed. Some will make big things. So a lot of these things are still in their infancy, which makes the whole thing speculative to a massive extent, which is why it moves up and down so greatly, right? So I'm with you to a large extent. Why is Ethereum, doing this? Like I say, I mean, I'm up enormously on Ethereum. I don't trade it. I just bought it and I store it. And it is what it is. And I'm pleasantly surprised each time it makes a new high. Whatever, it's extremely consistent. And the only reason I can break it down is that it essentially incorporates all the small projects that run within it, and it's basically like trading the Nasdaq. So all the projects that run within Ethereum kind of keep it propped up. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's crap. It's like Bitcoin. You wouldn't want to pay anything with Bitcoin. It's slow. It's expensive. Ethereum's even worse. But what Ethereum is behind all of that is like an index of blockchain, I suppose. XLM. Let's have a look at that. Tether. Go on then. Right. So this is another one that's giving us a deceptive support. So bang, 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 and it's an upwards triangle, which for those who know, this is more likely to break out bullish. So forget the wick, which is obviously a spinning top, which basically says I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I couldn't tell you, no idea. I'm 50-50. Upside, downside. I can do anything tomorrow. I'm a wild card with this kind of candle formation. This is a weekly, by the way, actually, which makes it worse. But let's go to the daily. So it's 50-50, isn't it, really? So we could look at this formation and go, okay, well, it's a support and it's a formation, but it doesn't really know what it wants to do. Given the fact that we do have what looks like an incoming death cross probably tomorrow, it doesn't look good either, being below all major moving averages. So the only thing we've got going for us is hoping that we hold on to this level, and because I think Bitcoin's out of resistance, I don't think we will. So we'll look at horizontals instead, and I've already got this box in here already, which means that this is now the horizontal area. So the buy zone is within this area, so just a little lower today from where this uptrend is of support. That comes in at 27, we call it 27 and almost 28, to as low as 19 and a half. So I think it's more likely to break into those, at some point, with the market. However, if Bitcoin decides that it's going to V-shape and the market V-shapes, then this is the obvious area. And in hindsight, we'd look back at this and go, oh, why was I so bloody scared? This was so obvious all the way back down here. We held. But again, just to refer back to what we were talking about with Bitcoin, we could have said the same thing with Bitcoin, couldn't we? Oh, yeah, it's definitely going to go. Oh, what the hell? Oh, wrecked. So, let's not let the charts deceive us. I think that buy zone's going to be dipped into, and it'll turn around there. But I mean, the chart in itself, it's not the worst looking thing I've ever seen, but it does favour further downside, definitely. And again, looking at this through the lens of Bitcoin, which I think is at a resistance, would also imply that. What's your Twitter? Yeah, CryptoClick1. Someone was already CryptoClick. You know what I mean? When I created this channel, I didn't put much thought into what I'd call it, and I actually think CryptoClick's a really crap name. I've been thinking of changing it, but obviously, how do you go about rebranding it? I suppose, maybe I should have put a poll up. But I think I regret calling myself CryptoClick because it is a crap name, and the fact that I'm now CryptoClick1 on Twitter just makes it even worse. Right, IDEX. Let's have a look at that. Wrecked city. To be honest with you, something like this, let's not even look at it, to be honest with you. It's not an old enough chart to have any kind of to be excited about. It's not even got 200 exponential, and it's below all major moving averages, and it's, what is this, a brand new wick low, or it came down to those supports. So again, this is what you'll find, isn't it, with charts that have no price action to it. Young charts, horizontals are the only way to really think about it. Moving averages don't really count for much at all. I mean, they might do on the shorter term time frames. I mean, they should do. But if we do look at the shorter term time frames, what do we have? We've got an incoming death cross, so I don't like it, I'm afraid. I can't say anything about it, really, because I can't trade charts that are this short, like this. And again, the horizontals are the only thing you got going for you, and if that's the case, we've got an incoming death cross going on the 4 hourly, which might have some relevance to it. Or we've also, if we break down from here, then it is God knows where we go from there. Do you know what I mean? It's a blue sky breakout to the down. So yeah, let's forget about that. My Lambo got capitulated. Yeah, as did mine. We checked Bepro. It's a hopium coin, and yeah, like I say, I'm not going to go into it any further. We've already spoken about it. Every time Bepro pumps, the market tanks. Maybe that's a good observation. It's definitely missed the bull market this time around. It might have its time, but yeah, maybe. Well, you know what? I think that'll do for one evening. But I'll leave it with you there. Again, we come back on Wednesday. And again, this was a mistake to open it to the public. I don't normally do that. It was supposed to be just for patrons. It was a mistake. But we'll come back on Wednesday, right? And we'll have a bit more price action at that point then. We'll see at that point if Bitcoin is still within this range, and which I expect it probably will be. And we'll check sort of lower term time frames to see if momentum is slowing. We'll also have to reassess and analyze the overall economy, based on Megatron virus and the tapering, and because the traditional markets were wrecked and they did find a bounce. So actually, if Nasdaq looks a little bit like this now, which is I sort of mentioned it a little bit before, on my video today, but I didn't show the chart. But if we have a look at the Nasdaq, this is why I was a little bit surprised to see that massive dump last night. Although we did, just as I expected, I did decide to make out like I'd called it exactly, but I did mention the fact that it could. But I was a little bit surprised to see Bitcoin continue actually dump after the candle body closure here. But let's just think about what we're looking at here on Nasdaq. Now, the only reason I'm looking at Nasdaq is Bitcoin correlates more with Nasdaq than the other major indexes, but all major indexes are doing the same thing. They're all downtrending to a large extent, not looking good. This is your spinning top, so this is basically means I don't know what I'm going to do on Monday. I could go up, I could go down. I've got a wick here, I've got a wick here, I've got a big fat body here. I'm still in a downtrend. I'm below all major moving averages. I could do anything, which I suppose made it. I suppose if anything, if you're looking to de-risk out of crypto, you could interpret that in the worst case scenario. Go, all right, so it is a downtrend. That's a spinning top. Let's get out of this while I can, and so we don't know what's going to happen to traditional markets on Monday. We literally don't know. We don't know. This candle is telling us that already. If anything, it does favour more downside. To be honest with you, it definitely does favour more downside. So yeah, let's expect more downside in the short term. Let's expect this range of Bitcoin to be filled out and fleshed out a little bit, and then we will see, how everything fares. If Bitcoin breaks and closes candle bodies below 40, I will join the masses in seriously entertaining a bear market. But for the moment, we're nicely above all of that, and I'd be okay with the test of it as well. But candle body closures on dailies below it, yeah, I'd be a little bit worried. But then at that stage, you have to think, well, where's the bottom going to be? And how am I prepared to wait it out? Like I say, if you're in Bitcoin anyway, not really altcoins, because obviously bear markets for altcoins result in very, very nasty outcomes. To be honest, very nasty. I don't know if anyone was around from 2017 throughout, but yeah, some things never recover. Literally don't recover, and some things never get traded again afterwards. I've seen it happen, and it will happen again. Altcoins, some will just die, literally dead. Yeah. So, but if we close candle bodies below, we have to think, where's the bottom going to be? This could be the bottom. It's a strong support. But if we are in a bear market, an official one, that could be the equivalent of your 6,600 of the previous bear market, which appeared to be an okay area. Do you know what I mean? Oh, we'll be okay. We're just going to hold here and we're going to... Dead. And then at that point it turns around relatively quickly after that, because, the bear market is over. So this is what could this could be the case. I'll leave you with the worst case scenarios just so you can have a good night's sleep tonight. So we break down below 40, then it's pretty obvious that I would say that it's not obvious, but it's very likely that we at least revisit 29, which I think would be the equivalent of the 6,000. Then the next thing we've got going for us is about 18,000, and then 12,000 after that. 12, 13,000, which is these areas. That's your bear market territory. Each one of these could offer the potential bottom. So if we think about that, like I say, I want you to all sleep well tonight. So let's have a look at what this could be. Wrecked City, 75% from where we are at right now. So that's the worst case scenario. I don't think it's the most likely outcome, but that is the worst case scenario. The most likely outcome is we flesh out this area for a little bit and then break out and continue with our uptrends. Maybe not within this time zone, but that's what I would expect anyway. Right, I'll leave it with there, guys. Like I say, if you want to join the Patreon for these kind of videos, do them twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday. £7.50 a month, can't complain with that. However, I imagine after a day like today, £7.50 is probably quite a hard thing to part with. But other than that, I hope you have a nice day, nice evening, good weekend. Take it easy.